session is being recorded. You will receive an email announcement once the recordings are available. If you have any questions or comments throughout the session, please type them into the chat area, or if you have a microphone, feel free to ask your questions or make comments aloud. However, we do ask that you mute yourself if you're not speaking in order to avoid any background noise. The presenter for this session is Charles Severance. Charles is a clinical associate professor and teaches in the School of Information at the University of Michigan. He is the chair of the Sakai Project Management Committee and works for Longsight as Sakai Chief Strategist. Previously, he was the executive director of the Sakai Foundation and the chief architect of the Sakai Project, and worked with the IMS Global Learning Consortium, promoting and developing standards for teaching and learning technology. Charles teaches two popular MOOCs to students worldwide on the Coursera platform, Internet History, Technology, and Security, and Programming for Everybody, and is a longtime advocate of open educational resources to empower teachers. And at this point, I will hand it off to Chuck.
Okay, can folks hear me and see my screen? Okay, well, I will start. Thanks and welcome to my session. The session is going to circle around a website that I have called py4e.com, Python for Everybody. I have another website called wa4e.com, Web Applications for Everybody. And I'm going to talk about how I'm increasingly turning my courses into websites, and then with software and with content. So this is my basic outline, sort of why I'm doing this. We'll play with my this website, Python for Everybody, look at how I'm doing this in YouTube and connecting, talk a little bit about Tsugi, talk about GitHub, and then talk about Cloudflare, and then show how this works in Sakai and Coursera. So if you go to pythonforeverybody.com, this looks like you're not logged in. It is an open education and resource site. So if you want, you can take a look at the materials. There's some lecture slides and handouts. And if you wanted to download my book or buy my book, this is kind of like this thing that goes with my textbook and the materials. In addition to sort of the raw materials, I've also got a set of lessons. I've written a lessons tool. It's very different than the regular R lessons tool in Sakai. It's the lessons tool for one course. And if you look at a lesson, you can, I think if I turn my email off, I'll stop getting those notifications. It basically has video content, has links to the various slides. I've sort of structured this in a way that you could take the course. And so this is like an open education resource site. This is an OER website that goes along with the textbook. But then what I've done is I've actually embedded a learning management system into it. And so now I'm going to log into this website and log in with my Google account. And you'll notice that the exact same user interface now changes. And I have this assignments button, and I now have a grade book. Now I'm still at a website, Python for Everybody. This went from an open education resource website into a MOOC. So now you're in a MOOC. You can do your homework. Let's do this one, why program. And this takes us down, and you'll see that in every one of the lessons, at the bottom of the lesson, what has appeared is assignments that you can then do online. So we can do AutoGrader. Looks like I got this one right. So I'm going to run my little program, and it says hello world, and then updates my grade on the server. And so it's got a grade book, it's got lessons, anyone can log in, and you could start taking this course right away. One of the problems that we're seeing with Coursera is Coursera increasingly is trying to make it more and more difficult to do things for free on their platform, because they want to make as much money as possible. And so they want take away assignments, for example. And so one of the things I'm doing is I'm saying, you want to do the assignments? I have this website that belongs to me. And so we take advantage of a couple of things. I use discussion, and that means everyone can have their own discussion. I didn't write my own threaded discussion yet. I hope to at one point have one. The problem then is you got to police it for people who are troublemakers. And so this becomes a MOOC. Now let's see, looking at a couple other things here. I have a profile that allows me to set my location, configure a few things. I have a set of badges, and these turn out to be real live Mozilla Open badges, and these are my progress towards badges, which is somewhat different. These are the assignments that you have to do to achieve this a badge, assignment, badge, assignment, badge. So this is really designed to be a self-paced thing. And so this is a real Mozilla badge, and if you took this, open this in a new tab, you would see that this is a JPEG, which you could PNG that you can download. It has the official correct Mozilla metadata that's in this PNG, and that's a real legitimate Mozilla Open badge. Let's see, what else can we do? We've got a link to the materials. You can actually play with the LTI tools that are inside this system, because this also has a series of LTI tools. It has some Python auto-graded assignments for my book chapters 1 through 10, later chapters of the book. I do teach people SQL, and I use the peer grader, and I have a little grade book. And so this is actually Tsugi itself that's embedded, if you've ever seen Tsugi. So Tsugi is like the learning management system for this website. It's a learning management system. It's not a course management system, or I guess you could call it a course management system. It's not a courses management system. And so you can play with that if you're developing tools. I also have an arrangement with the ClassCentral.com where I can do class ratings. And so Class Central has literally thousands and thousands of classes, and my class is independently rated. And if you search Python, and right now this isn't really heavily rolled out, but I have a rating system, and this rating system is outside of me. It's not under my control, but I participate in a rating infrastructure that rates MOOCs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is this website. It's really quite simple. It's a combination of OER and MOOC. I'll pause for a second and just check the chat for questions, see if there's any questions that pop up at this point in time before I go into how we can use this inside Sakai. Move quick. Okay, well then I'll continue on. You can put the questions in, I'll come back and, oop, there was a question, just when I flicked up. Is this a duplicate of Coursera class? Yeah. Janet, yes, it basically is. Some of the videos are recorded twice. It is as much as possible a duplicate of the course. The difference is that in the lessons, these videos all belong to me and they're all on YouTube. Coursera hosts their own videos, but for now, this is a replica. And if I go into my Coursera class and I go to AutoGrader Write Hello World, and I go into this class and I go into week 1, or maybe it's week 2, I think. And week 3, is it week 3 that we do Hello World? Oh, there we go. So here's an LTI assignment sitting inside Coursera. Open tool. It's the same thing, right? And so it turns out this is on a slightly different web server, but ultimately all the tools that are living inside Python for everybody are the same tools that I use inside Coursera, and I'm using LTI to make sure that that works. So it's the same LTI code, and the slides are the same. It's a kind of like an open duplicate of my Coursera course. And as a matter of fact, if you look at Python for Everybody and you look at all the lessons in Python for Everybody, I have 5 Coursera courses that cover this same book and same material. So 1 through 5 is the first Coursera course. 6 through 10 is the second Coursera course. 6 through 11, 12, 13, everything up to database, and 14, that's another Coursera class. This actually is 5 Coursera classes. And so that's another thing, is that sometimes Coursera takes away access for people. So all their material that I've used in those Coursera courses is there. So this is my open education, my radical OER approach to Coursera. Let me see if there's any other questions. Okay, thanks, Janet. Okay, so now I want to show you, well, let me show you just one little quick screenshot here. This is one of the YouTube videos. And one of the things I'm starting to do is think about all the different ways that people could encounter the material. And one is you just find it in YouTube. And this basically says, for materials in a free book and interactive exercises, please visit this. I'm starting to think people are increasingly going to learn from their television. And so I just am making it so that all these things embed and then point back. So the website points to this, and this points to the website. And even if you look down here, I've got a link down here that says go to there. So I'm trying to create a way that people can, through Google and through search. That's another thing, is if you look at these lessons, these are all, you're not logged in. Well, if I wasn't logged in, these are all searchable by Google, and Google can find these, and Google can read all of this text and all these things, and eventually Google can find people and send them straight to these lessons, straight to a lesson, and they're dropped right into a course. So I want this to be very public, very searchable, very open, etc. Now, let's say, for example, that I was like a teacher, and I came across and I said, I'd like to use this service. And so I gave myself some keys as the administrator of this site. And I click on using your key, and it gives you some instructions that say, okay, there's a couple of Python autograders, an SQL autograder, a peer grader, gradebook, but you can also put this in Sakai as a content item in an app store. So I'm going to do that. I've also got some Canvas instructions. So I'm going to go right now to Sakai's nightly server, and hopefully it's up and running. And it'd be ironic if it didn't. Oh no, don't tell me. Oh, okay. I'll log in as admin. Go to Mercury. Go to lessons. Go to add content, add external tool, manage or install tools, install a tool. Now, if you look wherever I was, it said, make sure to check supports content item with installing this URL and tick the boxes to allow the title and URL to be changed. Let's go back to Sakai right here. So this is going to be PR4E App Store. Allow it to be changed. App Store, that part doesn't matter. The URL is that, which I copied from the UI. You have to have a key and a secret, but for fun, I'll just use my standard one that gets wiped out. And so you don't want to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in secret for too long. And I'll say yes, send the user emails, allow it to return grades, allow it to store, do this, all this stuff. Now this one is a store, and so this is a feature of Sakai 11 only that says allow the external tool to configure itself. So I'm marking that this is not an app itself, but it's an app selector. And so then I'm going to save this. I'm going to cancel this. I do have to hit refresh, unfortunately, here. And so now I'm inside of lessons again, and I'm going to go into the App Store. So this is launching an iframe in the middle. And so this app is exporting two things. One is a tool. It has a set of LTI tools in. So this is kind of like an app store for the LTI tools, but it also then has pre-configured assignments. And so these are the tools like the Python autograder tool, except this is a Python autograder that says, I want to write the hello world. So I'm going to click on this and pick this assignment. So I'm constructing a course. Anyone could be constructing a course. Doesn't have to be me, as long as you have a key and a secret. So now it's going to go blah, blah, blink, blink. And so now I've got a thing in lessons, and the key and the secret and actually all of the data is pre-configured to the point now where, oh, I don't know quite why that went to, oh no, reset code. I don't know why it went to 4.6, but I now have a fully configured tool in there, okay? And so that is basically, I turned this website into an app store inside of Sakai. So let me also show you how this works inside Canvas. Somewhere I've got Canvas up here. I don't know. So I've already done the install. I think this will work. I better go to my SI664 class. So here is Canvas. It's lame. Here's its lessons tool, by the way. Isn't that great? It's a table of contents. But so in lessons, I mean in the modules, I'm going to add a new entry to this module. And I say add a new entry. And I'm going to go to the external tool. I already installed this once, and so WA4E is accessing the tools that are in this website. And so now if I look at use this service on web applications for and I use this to install it into my Canvas. So in Canvas, it says, it shows up a little differently. It says, I'm going to install this, but the search means this isn't a tool itself. This is a tool to install other tools. So when I click this, now it's going back to my, in this case, WA4E website, finding all the tools that are in this website and allowing me to do the same kind of thing, pick either assignments or unconfigured tools to be inserted. And I will stop now and go back and see if there are any questions. That's a good question. The videos are stored in YouTube. Because I don't yet have a, okay, so how does someone go about building an activity that doesn't already exist? So Dave, the answer to that, there's a couple of different ways to think about that. The first question is, how did you make this website in the first place? How did you build these activities? How did you build those LTI tools? How did you even make these lessons work? How did all that happen? Is that your question? Or is your question more a question of, I'm sitting here in Sakai, then I just use this as it's like, oh, I want to put peer grading in, and so I'll just do this, and I'll install a peer grader, and now I got a peer graded Dropbox, and I can configure this and set this assignment up inside of my Sakai, and so I can use this as a sort of general purpose source of tools that I'm going to build in Sakai. Or I can use it as pre-configured assignments, that's whatever I want. And so if you look in web applications for everybody, and I go into developer mode, it has a different set of tools. And each one of these websites, some of them, like they all use the peer grader, and this gradebook is something I use across multiple websites. But this autograder and this SQL autograder are unique to this course content. So part of what I do is I develop these things. I can show some of the behind the scenes stuff in a sec if that's what you want to see. So that's talking about how you use this, and I can show you something. I don't know if it'll work or not. This doesn't work really pretty yet, but if you use the editor inside, yeah, so that's my web applications for everybody editor. You actually can also have content, which is all of this content. And I can check all these content out and just import all these things. Now I don't have that working in Sakai yet. And so I can take, in effect, all of the lesson. This is one of my lessons. That's JavaScript object notation. I can say, pull that whole lesson in. The problem is I'm pulling it. I get out of there. I don't want to do that. Go away. Okay. I don't want to do it in this text box. there's another feature of importing the entire course as a common cartridge, and I can show you that. And then you have to import content into this course, and I can import an entire content from Web Applications for Everybody. And so this actually going to import the whole course, and then it's going to run and do some stuff. And then what I end up with, and I'm not going to bother doing this all the way, I end up with an entire structure being built that's in the modules. It actually pulls the entire website, let's go back to here, go to lessons. Pretty much all this can be imported as a single IMS Common cartridge. In Sakai, what I have to do to get an entire IMS Common cartridge is go here and then click on Export to Common Cartridge. And then I can show this, cancel, show in Finder, wherever this was. Then I could upload this file. This is the entire course, lessons, LTI links, content, web links, everything, and it will show up in lessons. So I can do that as well. And so there's lots of flexibility using Common Cartridge, IMS Content Item, and IMS Learning Tools interoperability that let me make this site and this site be a set of resources that anyone can use in any learning management system. Purpose of storing tools. Oh yeah, okay, Dave, I'm trying to draw out how much a typical instructor would need to do versus someone of your acumen. Well, I know that every second of every day, and my goal is to experiment on someone with my acumen so I can figure out what needs to be done so that I can make it easy for people to do what I'm doing. The purpose of storing tool settings, options in LTI is that you have all these custom properties, if you ever played with LTI, that are stored in the LMS. And that's basically a way that the external tools can set and retrieve their own settings. And it really allows for a zero configuration tool where all the settings can be pulled from the learning management system. Unfortunately, that's an LTI 2 concept, not an LTI 1 concept. And so that's why I don't build a lot of stuff depending on it. Tsugi knows how to do that. And Tsugi actually stores settings locally. And if it can be stored in the LMS, it stores it in the LMS. Okay, any other questions before I show you the deep, dark details a little bit at least? Okay, so let's talk about the course. So this course, Python for Everybody, this entire website is a GitHub repository that's right here. And in it, there are all kinds of things. I manage my entire course in GitHub. These are all my lecture slides, my sample code. If you look, there's an index.php file somewhere in here. And if you look at that index.php file, you will see that it's this text of this main page. Welcome to my massive open online course version of whatever. And it says, welcome to my massive open online course. Now I have things like top to put out the top and nav to put out the navigation. So top puts out the headers. Literally what this ends up being is this is an inverted learning management system in that I am going to use Tsugi as my learning management system, but I get to write web pages. And so I can do anything I want to do in HTML. And so if you think about what we do with lessons is we pound all this HTML into lessons just so it looks pretty. Here I make a website that's pretty, and then I inject into that website Tsugi. And so Tsugi, for example, gives me things, and you'll see these URLs change. So Python for Everybody, that's just some text. But now I have a bit of code in Tsugi. There's an embedded Tsugi. So you could go to a Tsugi page and just use Tsugi. And as a matter of fact, this is what Tsugi looks like. This is what Tsugi looks like if you just download and run Tsugi. It's kind of a developer console. It's got an administrator console, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's kind of the welcome to Tsugi page. And so, but what I have is in this main page, I have, oh, lessons. Well, if you look, that's just a URL that goes to Tsugi/lessons.php. And Tsugi Lessons is what puts up all these pages. Now you might say, okay, where did the data come from for Tsugi Lessons? Well, let me show you where Tsugi Lessons reads its. So this is, I have to build at some point an authoring interface. Lessons. So, or let me just go over here. Back to Python Learn, I would have found it. I have the lessons. Remember, this is a learning management system for one course. This is the data configuration. Now I'll build it, someday I'll build an authoring environment, but unlike using Hibernate and Java server, real server faces and that stuff, I just made a big JSON file. And this JSON file defines the badges for the course. JSON defines the modules. It defines other courses that says, hey, like if I go over here and I go to the, where is it? Profile, badges, book, other courses. Maybe it doesn't show other courses. Well, and so come back. So the modules, this one has a title, it has some references, it has some LTI links, it has some configuration in the LTI links. Someday I will make a user interface that configures this, that is like a lessons authoring environment. So there could be someday an edit button on lessons that would hit an edit button and it would modify this file. But for now, I just edit this file and I change it. So that's basically that, and other configuration is how I create this website. I mean, I literally edit this website and then put various links to various things that are sometimes inside Tsugi. So if you look at the badges, that is Tsugi this file to understand what learning objectives map to what badges, because that's what that is. These are learning objectives and these are badges. And there's pictures of badge pictures and all these things. And so you just build this thing into GitHub. You build it into GitHub. And then you do one more thing. And that is, you'll notice that there's no Tsugi URL. You actually then have to install Tsugi as a subfolder. So this is the entire Tsugi learning management system. And in here you will find things like the badges code. You will find things like the lessons code. I should not click so fast. The lessons code. And there are things like all the libraries for Tsugi, all the LTI support. Now let's see, source, UI, output.php. This is just an object that people use inside Tsugi to do things, to make things all look the same inside Tsugi. So Tsugi is a development environment, and it's a learning management system. It has a whole bunch of libraries. It has like a bunch of libraries for the LTI launching and making this database work. I can have a whole talk about Tsugi. And so Tsugi itself is like a learning management system, but then in addition to that, I have in Python Learn a set of Tsugi tools that I've written. And so I've got the Python data autograder, the Python autograder, and the SQL autograder. Okay. And so these are Tsugi tools. Index.php, it's a Tsugi tool that does the autograder for a whole series of my data-oriented assignments. And so this is part of my whole Python Learn site. It includes the content for the site, the lectures, and it includes autograders. And Tsugi makes those things come to life and puts a database behind them. And then there's one last thing to put this all together. There is a set of Tsugi modules, actually not Tsugi project. There's a set of modules, what Moodle would call modules, what Sakai would call contrib tools. And that peer grader is something that's used across many different sites. And so I install, I'll have a few more of these eventually, but these are all the possible modules that you can add. And so if you go into my Python for Everybody and you look at use this service, you will see that here's a thing in tools. This is Python AutoGrader. Python AutoGrader. When it's in tools, it's part of pythonlearn.com, Python Learn. But then in mod here, these are installed things that are coming out of here. And so I'm installing a set of tools inside. Oh, where am I? I got too many tabs. So I'm installing all these tools. Okay, so the mod grades and mod peer grade are two tools that are used across different things. And if you look over here at Web Applications for Everybody, you will see that I have got mod grades and mod peer grade that I'm using in both places. And then this has LTI tools that are built into it. And I think that I will stop there and pause for questions, because this has been a lot of stuff. Yeah, I showed you the dark side, Dave. I guess the thing that I would say is that I have been working on Tsugi for a long time and building things and refactoring things and coming up with ways of putting Tsugi together with different ways of doing it. And I don't have it well documented how to build an amazing site like this that's a combination of content and Tsugi, but it's not very hard for me to do. Right now, I just keep working on it. And so I'm thinking over the next 6 months or so, I will have a way. I'll just have a little book or a website that says, oh, so you want to do a MOOC and you want to put it in a web page. I'll show you how to do it. And I'll just write up some nice instructions inside Tsugi about how to build that. It's just a feature that I built for this semester. Okay, part of the reason that I built this was I'm being forced to use Canvas. And I didn't want to do anything in Canvas. And so I wanted to do everything that I possibly could do outside Canvas. And so I'm teaching 2 courses this semester, a Python course and a PHP course. And so everything that I can possibly not do in Canvas, I am not doing in Canvas. So I made it so that I can bring stuff into Canvas really easy, so that I have all my teaching is done out here, and Canvas is just kind of like a crude table of contents to my material that I've already built. It's got all these links into the various things, the book chapters, the tool peer graded installation, peer grader calls these peer graders. And I should have put that in a new page, but so I'm using all these things so that I could not use Canvas, basically. So I built all this stuff. So that's why it's kind of rough still, because I was working on this like August and then September and October, and I'm finally catching my breath. And so what you're seeing is very, very recent and very fresh. So we have about 7 minutes left. I'll stop talking and see if anyone has any questions. So let me go back and answer another Dave question. I'm trying to draw out how much a typical instructor would need to do versus someone of your acumen. It is my ultimate belief that I'm not necessarily trying to build this to the point where every instructor can do this trivially, although with editing devices, that lessons tool could be made much easier, because you just make a nice UI like Sakai's lessons tool to edit that stuff. I have a different view of the world. My view is not that every teacher is going to be a programmer. My view is that instructional designers and programmers that work on this stuff need to be able to build these kinds of things for the faculty that work at their schools. And so I really would like it. I don't really care if 100% of the faculty members do this. This is really something that maybe 10% of your faculty members will do for big courses or courses that you have special long-term life cycles, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm looking at, if I go back to my original comments of innovation, right? I want people to come to Apereo and be the smartest 5 people, instructional designers and technologists on their campus. And I want them to go back and find 10 teachers and build something really awesome for those 10 teachers that is broad and impactful. And that's why I see this as the confluence of open educational resources and MOOCs and amazing use of standards. So that's what this really is. And so does every teacher need to have a MOOC? Not necessarily. But for those who do have MOOCs, wouldn't it be great if everything that they did was amazingly reusable, right? Why not put stuff in this form that says, oh, I've got an accounting teacher at school X. I made a thing called www.ac4e, accountingforeverybody.com, and it's got auto graders, and it's got content, and it's got materials. It can be exported as a common cartridge. And so I'm producing open educational resources. And so it's the same question of who wants to produce who's going to produce open education resources? Not necessarily 100% of the people, but if they're going to produce it, I want them to be produced in a super awesome form. Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. We can craft how students can learn well rather than have to bend the limitations of an LMS. Yeah, and the entire look and feel of this, that's just me and lousy Bootstrap. I mean, everything in here is something I could have controlled. If I was a better web designer, this would be a gorgeous website, but it's not. Because ultimately, Tsugi is merely links here and there. Tsugi even learns, once you tell Tsugi what this header is, it just actually puts the header up on top of all the Tsugi pages. Right? So it's like, oh, I'm a Tsugi page. Tsugi itself has headers that it would put up, but it just takes your headers and you put them in this, you put the headers in the session and yada, yada. So there's actually a lot of ideas that, that I got from Morpheus in a way. So even if you look at the technology that puts the header on top of the lessons page, this header is different when it's in this website than in this website, even though it's the same code. Now they look the same because I wrote them both, but they don't have to be the same. This doesn't even have to be Bootstrap. Although Tsugi, this part wants to be Bootstrap because Tsugi is generating this markup. But you could do all kinds of other stuff. You could make this a single page site if you wanted. There's an infinite number of things that you could do to make this prettier than me. I'm still just kind of building stuff. I release all my materials explicitly with a Creative Commons license, and I'm hoping that I say that right there at the bottom of every page. Bottom of every page. Bottom of every page. I'm kind of obsessed. I have a footer. I just have a footer. Oh, here's something cool. I bet you can't do this inside your Sakai. Translate your thing to Hebrew. Or translate your thing to, I don't know, Polish. Right, and so this is a good example of, this is my website. I'm not in a learning management system. The pieces of this website, can be placed into learning management systems, but this learning experience is not in learning management systems, is not limited by learning management systems. It's limited by my ability with like Bootstrap, which is not very good. I mean, I just can basically make Bootstrap not crash. That's what I'm good at. Okay. Any last minute questions? We only got 2 minutes left. Yeah, so Dave, the next steps for Tsugi are just to clean up the documentation, document, build a nice website. I want to, at some point, I want to make a prettier website. I don't know if I still have it here. I want to make a pretty website and do some marketing for it, maybe by this time next summer. Went to Marist. And they made a really cool Tsugi page. Tsugi. And so we made this really pretty web page at Marist. And I haven't turned that into the real thing yet. But it's, it's like, it looks grown up. It looks like someone would actually care about it. I got a lot of work I got to do on it. But get to the point where, Tsugi looks like a website that people could just download and start using. But for me, I first got to get the functionality, and I want to beat the heck out of the core functionality of it, and just add technical features to it, but then document it and turn a corner where it becomes something that people just start downloading and using, and I don't even know. Right now, I've got a few people using it, and happy to have collaborators, but I still have to just kind of finish it up and tighten it up, and you know, quit building and start documenting. Francois, the answer is either way. Tsugi has a couple of different modes. If you look at, so if you look at like this index.php, Tsugi has this way to basically say, it's probably top or nav. Let me go look top.php. Tsugi has this way to say, it effectively, right here, it has this thing that says, start the PHP session, check to see if there's an LTI launch. If there's not an LTI launch, just do what you'd normally do. And so it's really designed so that you can take any website and put this line in it to set up Tsugi, and then session start, and then just go into HTML, drop down to HTML into that. And then you can, once you've done that, you've kind of activated these other URLs, like you know, you can then just put a URL in there, and that's a Tsugi page. And so you could do it quite easily. And so there are people who are using Tsugi kind of to do very simple things, taking and just gently augmenting a website, and there are people who are just rewriting the whole thing to be Tsugi. So it does both. I've got let's see, GitHub Tsugi project. There is a module in here. Tsugi node, Tsugi web, Tsugi static. I need more repositories. Here's mine. I must need to move something over. Yeah. So Tsugi PHP standalone, I need to move that over. Tsugi PHP standalone talks about how to basically integrate Tsugi into an application that already exists. And that's the documentation for that. So, okay, well, it's 2:13, so we should probably stop and let people get on to the next session.
All right, thanks, Chuck.
Cheers, all.